those speakers up. Tables on the beat. Tables on the beat.
Exalted Entertainment Radio, this is Kiara D, and you have just tuned into the Love Factor. We are broadcasting live here in Indianapolis, Indiana, down at Circle Center Mall. Today, we are talking about bridging the gap between teens and parents. And so, make sure you have your teen with you if you are a parent, and you all just listen in together, because I think this is going to be a very valuable episode for you, and we're going to have some great feedback for you. Today, we also are down here at Circle Center Mall joining IPS schools as they are hosting their showcase of schools. And so if you hear any background noise, that's the reason why, because we are broadcasting live on location. Again, I'm Kiara D, and today joining me here in a moment will be my good friend, Alenia Moore. She is the founder of Ladies Under Construction Mentoring Group. And she is a mentor here in the city who reaches out to the young ladies. And, I mean, she's phenomenal at what she does. So, as I said, she will be joining me here in a moment. But just to kick off the topic, you know, as I said, we are talking about bridging the gap between teens and parents. And if you want to join in on the conversation, feel free to get on the Facebook or get on our app, Spreaker.com, and click the little chat icon, and you will be able to communicate with us through that way, okay? Again, if you want to communicate with us, if you got some feedback you want to put in, get on our Spreaker app, and you will see the chat icon, and that's the way you can join us. Again, I'm Kiara D. We're broadcasting live down here at Circle Center Mall, and we're talking about bridging the gap. I would like to welcome my good friend, Alenia Moore, to the show. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, and so as I said, we are talking about bridging the gap, and you know, a lot of people have problems with their teens, and the reason why is, you know, there's a relationship that they just don't understand amongst each other. You know, they really don't understand how to communicate with their teen. The teens don't understand how to really talk to their parents in a way that they will understand them. And so that's why I brought my friend Alenia on the show today, because I think mentoring is a great way for parents to bridge the gap between their teens. Would you agree?
Yes, I would definitely agree to that statement.
Okay, so Alenia, if you can, just talk a little bit about what you do and how you got started in the mentoring business.
Okay, well, overall, I have a mentoring program called Ladies Under Construction. What it is a group mentoring program for young ladies between the ages of 8 to 18. We provide them with positive peer social circles. We provide them with assistance in learning about confidence and a lot about the conflict mediation and conflict resolution. So really we kind of meet them where they are and take them really to where they need to be with that assistance.
Wow. So as she said, she meet them where they are. That's one thing that is essential, and that's one thing that's key when it comes to mentoring, because a lot of mentors have to be able to meet their students where they are in order to reach them. And sometimes parents are not able to do that. And so that's why we are talking about the family structure today. And that's why mentors are very, very key in making that relationship work between the teen and the parent. Alenia, what age group do you work with, and how in particular do you reach them?
Well, overall it's ages 8 to 18, but we really break it down. We have an 8 to about 13-year-old age range, and then we have the 14 to 18-year-olds. Really, we support them as far as first letting them understand who they are, kind of break it down and let them understand the inner them, because a lot of times they're confused with what the media says they need to be, or with the streets and the environment that they're in. So we actually try to find out if they understand who they are, and once they understand who they are, we develop those skills, those interpersonal skills that they need to go ahead and be that successful woman that they need to be.
Wow, that's great. I have a person here on our chat icon who says that he has a teen who is consumed in social media. How do you connect with those teens who are just indulging in social media, and that's all that they know.
Well, you know what? Social media is not a bad thing. It's about how they actually are on that social media. I would definitely point for the parents. Make sure you have passwords. Make sure you're checking their social media. Make sure you know who they are and not necessarily just their main pages. A lot of our young people have code names. A lot of our young people have pages that their parents don't know. So we have to make sure we're opening our eyes up and opening our minds up and understanding that this is a new era generation. And so for those social media standpoints, you really have to be understanding and find out why is it that they want to be on those social media, because a lot of times we find out who our kids are through those social media.
Absolutely. I would totally agree. As I was brought up, my grandmother used to bust in on my room and she would search any of my stuff at any given time, and it's like you feel like you have a sense of entitlement as a teen, but in reality, if you're not paying any bills, you don't own the place, I don't think you should have any right to any privacy because you are under somebody else's roof. And I think in today's society, it's like parents try to respect their teens' privacy, and that's where I think a lot of parents miss it at. Would you agree?
Yes, I would definitely agree. And the key word you said is sense of entitlement. We have too many kids that are out here receiving rewards for negative behavior, receiving rewards for not doing what it is that they need to do.
Wow. I think, that just took me back because I see kids getting Jordans all the time, but they're getting kicked out of school every other day. What is wrong with that picture?
Right. And then we don't develop that sense of them needing to do the work that they need, because see, when they grow up, we say that you're given everything, but then once you get 18, you say you got to go out and work for what you want and what you need. But why are they going to work for that when they've been grown up and understanding that I can get and I'm entitled to everything just because who I am?
Wow, that's really good. I see that scenario played all the time where teens, they feel like they deserve to just have the world handed to them on a silver platter, and it's like you haven't earned a thing. You have not done anything to prove that you are worthy of receiving anything of honor, and it's just, I think that's really interesting that you brought that point up, because I see that a lot of times. I have another person here talking about on our chat icon that said, how do you meet your child where they are as a single mother that works most of the time? Because we have a lot of latchkey kids. How do you meet that child?
First, I would say find out what it is that they want to do. And I understand that, as single mothers, we have to work and, we have to do different things. But we cannot be consumed with the work that we have to do to where we lose our children. Because regardless, we have to make sure that we understand that, they want to do things. We have a lot of kids that want to play sports, get involved in different activities and different things like that. So we have to take back that village. We have to ask our neighbors. We have to reach out to the community and our family members to see who can support you in assuring that your child is still able to be that child. Because no child wants to see that, mom is working 2-3 jobs and this is what they have to do, especially our young men. That's when they go to believe that they need to be the man of the house at age 10, 12 years old, when that's not true.
Wow, that's so good. I see, as I mentioned before, I see a lot of latchkey kids nowadays, and I think you brought up a very good point. You still have to make time for that child, regardless of your work schedule. If your work is pulling on you more than your child is able to access you, then you might need to reevaluate your situation and try to find another job. Because sometimes it might be something that simple. Even though the money might be good or whatever, I see parents, they stick with a job that they hate just because of the money, but yet they're missing out on their child's life. And a lot of times they're missing out on those milestones in their children's life. They're not there at the baseball games. They're not there at the football and basketball games. They're missing out on so much because they're always working, and then they wonder why their child act the way they act.
Right. And it's not nothing against the parents. We all make mistakes. We all learn from those particular mistakes. But we also have to understand, we have kids that are growing up and they're seeing these certain things. And when they see these things, they believe that's the reality. They believe that's what they have to do. But like I said before, we have to make sure that we are allowing our kids to be kids. Because if not, they will grow up too fast and we will lose them. We don't want the media, we don't want other people knowing more about our children than we know about. about our children.
And that's a sad situation when our children's friends and their parents, their friends' parents, know more about our own child than we know, because we're simply not paying attention. We're so consumed with the cares of life that we miss out on all of what's going on with our child. I was once that child who was, well, I was brought up in a single parent home for the most part. And, I understood the fact that my mom, she did the best that she could. She worked like crazy, but sometimes you have to be mature enough to say, okay, I'm going to make the wise decisions. As a teen, you have to sometimes make those decisions for yourself, because your parent might not always be there as you would like. And unfortunately, sometimes their circumstances don't allow it, as we've already been talking about. But how do you talk to those kids who decided to be a product of their environment?
And you know what? That's very interesting, too, because, at a certain age, you do have to make that decision. I mean, I tell people all the time, a lot of people don't know my particular story, but my mother was on drugs, mentally ill. I was raised by my grandmother. But, I lived in that, was brought up in that low-income environment. I was brought up where I could have been a product of the environment. But what you have to do as a child, you have to teach your children to understand, if this is not how you want your children to be, if this is not how you want to live as an adult, you have to do different things to get different results. You cannot expect to do the same things that you see in your neighborhood and expect to get a different result. So you have to definitely make sure, first and foremost, your children know who they are and what they stand for, because if they don't know who they are, they will fall for anything that comes their way.
Yes, that's so true. Again, I'm Kiera D, and with me today is Alenia Moore. We're broadcasting live from Circus Center Mall, Indianapolis, Indiana. For those of you who are listening across the nation or internationally, thank you for tuning in today, and we are talking about bridging the gap. I have another comment here that says, my friend has not allowed her daughter to have a cell phone until she turns 16. Is this weird? I feel too strict doing so.
What's wrong with that? What's wrong with that? What is she missing? Until she's 16, what is she missing? What is it that she needs the cell phone for? Because better yet, wherever she's at, she needs to be where her parents are, or she needs to use the buddy system. Not having a cell phone at the age of 16, the question is, why should she have a cell phone?
Well, in today's age, I would never forget 3rd grade. I was in 3rd grade when I requested my first cell phone. Back then, that was not the norm. But now we see even elementary age kids having cell phones, and it's acceptable in today's society. But I think one of the reasons for that is because we're having a lot of kids having issues at the bus stops. And I think one reason for that is simply because the parent is absent. If parents were more present, and if they were at the bus stops with their children, or right there when their students get out of school instead of being late all the time, then we could avoid some of these problems. What do you have to say about that, though?
And you know what? That's true, because you can think about it also like this. At 16, it depends. It's about rewards. For instance, like I have a niece. She's 11. My thing is, for your children, you have to ask yourself, are you making sure that they know that education is a priority in the home? Now, if you're doing some sort of a reward system to where, for every A, you get $5, for Bs, you get $3, C is average, so I don't, recommend giving anything for that. But if it's something that she wants a cell phone, you have to say, okay, make sure she's working towards that, because with the cell phone comes paying a monthly bill. You can't give her a cell phone, but then she's doing everything, that she don't need to do, and then you're not going to be able to pay that bill. So it just kind of depends. You have to really think about it yourself and ask yourself, okay, she's wanting a cell phone, sit her down and find out why. But also, you have to make sure you see what apps she has. You have to make sure you check her social media. You have to make sure you check all of that, because we have young ladies on Instagram pages at the age of 10 that I mentor alone, but her parents don't check that, so she will never know. So if she's getting that cell phone, you have to monitor that.
I think the crazy thing that I find today is the fact that we have underage kids on Facebook. Facebook has a policy for ages 13 and up, but some parents know that their child is well below that age and still allow their child to be on Facebook. And I'm just like, I don't get it. What is wrong with today's generation? what is wrong with the parents that allow their children to do this? Because I feel personally that they're allowing their child to be exposed to things that is unnecessary. I mean, Facebook has so much circulating. You get pornography practically. I mean, nowadays you can see videos posted of pornography, or you might get pictures posted of people exposing themselves. Not only that, you see a lot of fights and a whole bunch of unnecessary stuff on Facebook. And I know that's not the only form of social media that we see this, but why do you think parents allow that at such a young age?
The only thing that I can say with that is just a mixed up priorities. That's all. Because a lot of times, a lot of parents are afraid to say no to their children. You have to make sure you develop, that self structure, that home environment at a young age. You can't get to the point where your young lady or your young man is 12 years old and then you're trying to instill these things in them, because at that point it's really too late. It just depends. But we have to make sure we start at a young age. We cannot start when they get to that point, because at that point they've gone too far.
Yes, definitely. The other extreme that I see is parents saying that, their child is going to go to college. They don't have a choice. They're going to make their child go to college, and they can't date until they're out the house, or, as we've already been talking about, they cannot have a cell phone until they have a job. And it's like, I feel like these things causes curiosity, it causes tension, but what other things or emotions have you seen expressed through these type of parenting skills?
Well, we have to make sure that even though we're saying that, what the kids can't do, you have to still open them up to it, because they're going to be introduced to it regardless. So just make sure you're the one introducing them to it. So if you don't want them to do social media, explain why. Show them the things that are out there. Tell them about cyberbullying. Tell them about the different things that are out there. So for the things that you don't want them to do, especially with dating, if that's something that you really don't want and you're really strict about it, you have to really be careful, because we know how teens are nowadays. They're going to do it. They're going to go out and do certain things. Just to make sure you're educating them. You're educating them to the point where, because peer pressure, we all know how that is. Even as adults, we have peer pressure. So just make sure you're preparing them and providing them with the tools so that when they are encountered with those certain things, they know how to respond.
That's good. That's good. As I said, we also have parents that make their children go to college. And on that note, sometimes what I've seen is when a child really does not want to be there, the parent is wasting their money, and as a result, the student flunks out, so they don't have to go to school. But to those parents, I encourage you to hone in on those students' skills. What is it that they like to do? Because if they don't want to go to college, give them another choice. Give them another option. Maybe they want to do a trade skill, such as they might want to go to hair school. They might want to drive trucks. There's a number of other things that they can do versus going to college. Another comment I have here in the chat box is gender roles are really being redefined now. How do you mentor teens who drift toward wanting to be the opposite sex, claiming they are born this way?
It goes back to understanding who you are. It goes back to understanding who you are. There are going to be some times to where, the way society has it, to be honest, a lot of young girls are dating young girls, but a lot of time it's because of the sexual assault they have with their male family members, to the point where if my father or if my uncle or my brother is supposed to love me and this is my family members and this is how they treat me, then why shall I go out to seek another man, when it comes time to date? Because this is how the men have showed me, this is how they treat me. So their self-worth is gone. So when you have someone who's been stripped of their innocence and their self-worth is gone, then what are they going to do? They're going to lean towards other people to where they have the same way. So that's why you have a lot of, girl-on-girl things going on nowadays, because they feel like, I'm safe now. All men are this sort of way because this is how my father did or my uncle. And furthermore, when reporting it to their parents, a lot of times they're shunned off. They're telling them that, well, maybe if you wouldn't have dressed this way, or maybe if you wouldn't have did this or did that, things wouldn't have happened. So when your self-worth is zero, you will go to anyone for anything.
Yes, I definitely agree. Again, this is Exalted Entertainment Radio. You can get in on the conversation simply by clicking on the chat box on the Spreaker app, okay? If you are listening to us via Spreaker, you could click on the chat icon and we will see your comments. Again, joining me is Alenia Moore, and we are talking about bridging the gap between teens and parents. And as she was just talking about, some students or some teens sometimes act out in ways that are not very favorable amongst some folks, and they tend to attract talking about it made me think about how I just recently saw a video, and it was basically someone watching their child and they decided to abuse the child. But this, I know we talked about sexual abuse, but I'm talking about physical abuse in this situation. Again, parents got to be more on their P's and Q's, because we put our children in people's hands and we don't even know them very well. Sometimes we'll turn our kids over to a family member, and that family member don't have their best interest in mind. But how can we avoid these situations?
We just have to make sure we make sure we know who our kids are around, because a lot of time uncle ain't the good uncle, brother ain't the good brother, you just never know. And if you feel some sort of way, and make sure you open it up. A lot of homes do not have that time where the kids can openly talk to their parents, How about you have a time during the day, 7, 8 o'clock before they get ready to go to bed? How was your day? What are some things that you learned today? Or what are some issues you have today that I can potentially address? But also share with them your frustrations. There's some things that we have to understand. We have to open it up and talk to our children. We did a survey before. A lot of our teens said, we asked them, what is a family tradition that you would like to start in your home? And what they said was, we want a time where everyone can sit at the table and eat. They said we want a time where we can just sit and talk about how our day was without TV.
Wow. I think that tradition has been lost over time, because back in the day, the family structure was very strong. When families were bigger, that was more of the norm for families to sit down and eat together. But now we've allowed media to taint the table, the intimacy that we have amongst our families. We've allowed media to come in and taint the dinner time that we're supposed to have with our loved ones and our families. But again, as she said, we can make that change right now. All you have to do is just make it a point to have dinner with your family at least once a week, if nothing else. Every day would be great, because you're making it a point to connect with that individual. But if you're not able to connect with them every day, at least pick a day of the week where you can. And that way you are not missing out on them. You're not missing out on what they're going through. They're not just suffering in silence and trying to act like everything is all right, but you're being intentional about your relationship with them. Again, we're talking about bridging the gap. We only have a few more minutes left on the show. But I wanted to talk about how do parents talk to their teens who comes off as standoffish, as if they don't want their parents involved in their lives. How do you reach those teens?
Well, what I would say is really, like I said, find out their interests. Find out what they want to do, what they want to be. We have to remember also, we cannot assume, or we cannot make our kids relive our dreams. The things that we didn't do, just like you talked about college or sports or different things like that. We can't relive our childhood through our kids. We can't do that.
That is so true. Oh, my goodness. I'm so glad you talked about that, because that needs to be reiterated. Just say that one more time.
We cannot relive our childhood through our children. We can't do it.
That's right. Because a lot of parents try to force those moments that they missed as a child. They try to project those moments onto their own children. And when your child begins to lash out and rebel, then you're wondering why. Well, they don't want to do it. Just point blank, they do not want to do that. So find something that they enjoy doing. Find something that they love doing. Going back on what we were just talking about, I have a comment here that says, for one, I only leave my child with my mother and never a man. I think it comes down to the parent being diligent and wise regarding the welfare of their children, as opposed to doing what's convenient. That is so true. You really got this person. Obviously, your parent, your mother. Your mother raised you. You know what she's capable of. That's probably the best relationship that you have outside of anybody else. Leaving your child with your mother is probably your best bet, if you know your mother's intention. If you know she has a good track record, then you definitely want to make sure you leave your child with your mother or a trusted source, but know who you are leaving your child with, because I'm so tired of seeing parents leave their child with people that they consider their friends, and then you leave a surveillance camera in the house, and then you find out what's really going on behind the scenes, or they just so happen to get spotted out in public on a surveillance camera doing some negative stuff to the kids, and then you wonder why your child is always crying that they don't want to go with such and such. But again, like I said, you have to know who you're leaving your child with.
Yes, and also the thing that just like you said, what's convenient for the child. A lot of times parents are confused. It really gets me as an educator, as a mentor, as a community activist, because a lot of times we know that there's positive things out there for our children, but the question that gets me is when parents ask their child, is this something that you want to do? Or or they'll tell us, well, let me see if my daughter wants to do this. No, you need to make sure that this is what they're going to do. You make them do these positive things. Whether it's boring to them, it doesn't matter. Mentoring, organizations, it's many things out there, because the excuse of there's nothing out there is not true.
And that's the reason why so many teens are turning to violence nowadays, because they're getting bored. They're not in structural environments. People always talk about we need reform programs for this, that, and the other, but it's plenty of things going on out here today. You just have to be diligent about finding something for your child and stop making excuses, because if you continue to make excuses, your child is going to end up either dead or in jail. Let's just keep it real. If you know you have a wayward teen, get that child connected with a mentor. Get that child involved in some extracurricular activity, because that is going to be what saves them from turmoil. Let's just keep it 100. But again, you get in on the conversations. We only have a few more minutes left. If you want to join the conversation, don't hesitate to click the chat icon on the bottom of the screen on the Spreaker app. And we are talking about bridging the gap between teens and parents. Alenia, I want you to talk about Ladies Under Construction, and if they're interested in becoming a part of your organization, how can they go about doing that?
Ladies Under Construction is a mentoring program for ages 8 to 18. For our volunteers, for our adults that's out there, if you have a testimony, if you have an experience that you've experienced, you would like to be a guest speaker, if you would like to volunteer in any way, we're always accepting volunteers around the whole Indiana area, the state of Indiana. We're looking to expand towards the a lot of different counties. We're available. We need the adults to be able to assist in providing the young people with mentors. For our young ladies, parents that have young ladies between the ages of 8 to 18, you can always go to www.ladiesunderconstruction.org, or you can call 317-721-4LUC. And for those that are out there, and if you don't live in the area but you would like to get some assistance, if you would like to get any tips, or if you would like to speak with me in regards to finding out some things specifically about your young lady, just give us a call and I'll definitely be able to assist you with that. We're definitely here to bring that village back. We're here to really support everyone. Once again, it's 317-721-4582.
All right, thanks you again. Okay. And as I said, we only have a few more minutes left. But real quick, I want to talk about, how do you feel about, okay, let's just use the real word. How do you feel about spanking your children? Because some parents feel like it's okay, and some parents feel like, oh, you're not supposed to whoop them, or it's against the law, where if you do your research, here in Indiana, it is not against the law. It's the way that you whoop your child that determines if it's right. If it leaves bruises, or if you use weapons of any kind, a belt, okay, that's acceptable. But if you use something else, then that's when it becomes abuse. But what do you have to say to those parents who choose not to spank their child?
I would definitely say it really depends on the actual parents, but one thing I will say, whether it be a man or a woman, if you are stressed out, if you are angry, upset, please do not put your hand on that child, because then it can become more of an emotional thing. You're upset, you're stressed out, maybe you're mad because a lot of things are going on, and then the force could be much more harsh than it could be then a simple, discipline. It's a difference between disciplining your child and punishing your child. So we have to make sure we understand we do not do it out of emotion and anger or when we're stressed out. Use it as a disciplining point, but also once you get done, make sure they know why they're getting in trouble. A lot of times they'll get, a whooping for something that happened a week ago or a couple of days ago. So, make sure it's immediate after the fact so that they can understand for every, consequence that this is what I'm going to get. So do not punish your child. It's a difference between discipline and punishment.
All right. Again, she's Alenia Moore, founder of Ladies Under Construction Mentoring Group. I want to thank you so much for joining us today. And again, if you can, just run that number back to them if they want to reach out to you, the number and the website.
Yes, it's Ladies Under Construction. You can Google that, or you can go to www.ladiesunderconstruction.org. And the contact number is 317-721-4LUC.
All right. Thanks again for joining us. I hope you all will tune in next week, same time, same place. It's Exalted Entertainment Radio. I'm your host, Kiera D. And this has been another great episode of The Love Factor. Signing off.